Welcome everyone to Belmont Poetry Night. My name is Jacki Rigoni, and for the last time I will be saying I am the Poet Laureate of Belmont, California, which I also acknowledge as unceded Ramaytush Ohlone territory. The role of Belmont Poet Laureate is to elevate poetry in our community. And because poetry to me is about speaking truth, I open our evening in support of Black Lives Matter, and especially because tonight, Belmont Poetry Night marks Juneteenth. For those of you who don't know, the Emancipation Proclamation declared that enslaved peoples in Confederate states were legally free. That went into effect in 1863. However, the proclamation itself didn't go into effect in territories that were still under Confederate control, and many people don't know that. It wasn't until after 2.5 years later, when Union troops arrived in Galveston Bay, Texas, that the more than 250,000 enslaved Black people in the state finally got word of the executive decree, and this day became known as Juneteenth, celebrated every year on this day. So tonight, it has been my honor to host Belmont Poetry Night for the past 3 years. I can't believe it's been that long already, serving as Belmont Poet Laureate. Here we have hosted over 20 of the most noted poets from around the San Francisco Bay Area, with the intention that I set at the beginning that I wanted to offer this space to women, to people of color, and LGBTQ voices in poetry, as well as giving the space to the most talented poets who are right here in our community through our open mic. Tonight is the last time hosting Belmont Poetry Night as your Poet Laureate. We will be searching for my successor over the summer, I'm excited to say, so stay tuned for that announcement for more information, and it's very well possible that our next Poet Laureate could be among the readers this evening. I've been grateful to the many people who have shown up to listen in or to read a poem here or at the library over the past 3 years. Some of you have joined just very recently. Some of you I'm happy to see your faces here. You pop in every once in a while. Great to see you again. You are all a part of this beloved poetry community. And if this is your first time being here, welcome. Glad you're here. You're now a part of us too. We meet every third Tuesday. We will continue over the summer, meeting here and sharing poems. But this evening is dedicated to the tried and true poets of Belmont Poetry Night. These are the 7 poets who I could count on to show up, even as many of you know, when I barely managed to get the announcement out until the day of. Month after month, even when we transitioned from meeting in person in the library to meeting online, these 7 poets have supported my work and the work of each other in lively community. Last month for my book launch, the host commented that he had never seen a more engaged event in all of the events that he hosted for the library. And I attribute that to the custom that we have of showing up, supporting each other, having lively commentary in the group. And that's the kind of environment we've cultivated here together. So tonight, I'm delighted to host our featured poets, Edward Mycue, Craig Sapp, James Haritatos, Lois Fried, Mirna Hirschl, Monica Corda, and Philip Harris. Their readings will be followed by my special guests who are here tonight. These are my Poet Laureate mentors who have supported me along the way and paved the way for the work that I have done and continue to do work in our community, often unpaid and unrewarded. And then finally, we have a few readers who have volunteered for the open mic. So let's begin. We'll start with poet Edward Mycue. Ed was born in Niagara Falls, New York, and raised in North Texas. He earned a magna cum laude bachelor's degree from North Texas State. He has numerous honors, including being a fellow at the MacDowell Colony, and something personal to me is a fellow Peace Corps volunteer who taught in Ghana. Upon returning to the U.S., he entered a period of intense civil rights activities and immersion in the counterculture. Ed was drawn into a monthly writers group that still meets regularly in his living room. And since 1970, this was astonishing to me. Ed has been showing up here for many, many months. This is the first time I've learned that his work has appeared in over 2,000 literary journals, magazines, zines, broadcasts, flyers, broadsides, and broadsheets. That's Ed's bio. What I want to say about Ed. After almost every one of my poetry readings, I would get an email from Ed. And those emails would say things like, "Wow, great job, Jacki," or "Your poetry really moved me." And often I was too busy, sorry Ed, to respond. But it means so much to a poet to know that someone takes the time to actually respond to their work. Ed, you've given so much to me by responding in that way. And there's one thing that I hope I'm not giving away too much here. After my book reading, I knew my book would resonate with women. Your email said to me, "Thank you for teaching me and helping me understand something about someone close to me." And I never really expected that kind of work to resonate with men. And so that actually healed something in me. So thank you, Ed. Thank you for being here tonight. And thank you for being here each month. Everybody, please welcome Edward Mycue.
Thank you.
So I will read the first poem from Ed, and this is called "The Night the Phoenix Burned." All that noisy night the phoenix flamed, crackling embers into singeing song, scorching fog, fuchsia, western laurel tree, raising memories of my flower years. Smoke clouding what passes, these keys of flesh. Time the phoenix entered the sun dance, fragmenting, shattering, grinding down my tired half dreams of a failed dream. Scooping from that mist of muffled bones, one frail and fragrant puff of finished fuse. Fleeing, finding stars, sky, sirens screaming. Years turn, hope spins again into morning. So what could never end might yet still come again. And now we will hear Ed read 2 of his poems.
All right. I figure you can hear me. So Raise your hand if you don't. This poem is called Fishbowl, and it's about, you'll see, being a writer and what we can and cannot expect. As I see that now, I'm in my 85th year, and it's been a long time. Fishbowl. Fish pass each other in the streets, drifting as an abstract creative force. Art will save nothing, absolutely. The soul of a family, in silence, sculling up rivers, fathoming diversions, plowing a state of mind, which will not count the hours. Hideous black pearls of fear, wandering, wallowing in a round bowl, eyes bulging in the head of a tattered man my father greatly admires, but his silent anger is alarming. We lived together there, all of us, constantly quarreling. Patience. Art will save nothing. But in our glass prisons, we do build these splendid nests. And the
Ed,
next one.
Ed, can I interrupt? I'm going to interrupt you really quickly, Ed. For many of us, your reading was very broken up. Would you mind if I actually read it for you? And that way, because I'm not
Sure,
sure your
go ahead.
connection. Yeah. It's
Okay, you read.
I hope it's okay because your connection is kind of staticky, and I want to make sure people hear your words. Fishbowl. Fish pass each other in the streets, drifting as an abstract creative force. Art will save nothing, absolutely. The soul of a family? In silence, sculling up rivers, fathoming diversions, plowing a state of mind, which will not count the hours. Hideous black pearls appear wallowing in a round bowl. Eyes bulging in the head of a tattered man my father greatly admires. But his silent anger is alarming. We lived together there, all of us, constantly quarreling. Patience. Art will save nothing. Yet in our glass prison, we build splendid nests. How'd I do, Ed? You were clearing up a little bit there at the end. Do you want to try again with your second poem?
Jackie, if he cuts off his video, that often helps. I had to do that at a reading the other day.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to try that? Ed, are you there? I think you're on mute there.
Unmute.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's great,
Okay.
Ed.
I hear in the wind. I hear in the wind long gone voices that knew the language of flowers, tasted the bitter root, hoped, placed stone upon stone, built an order, blessed the wild beauty of this place. Can you hear in the wind whisper crusts of soul, insulted soul, scattered ages decided on yellow thin? I hear in the wind those old sorrows and new voices, undefeated desires, and the muffled advent of something I can only define as bright new angels. Can you hear in the wind independent people who never depart, have no time for friends, and who want to go and want to stay, and who never decide in time? I hear in the wind old phantoms and the swirl of the released mustard star and the cry of innocence. It is soon, real soon, it is December. Thank you.
Thank you, Ed, and
Could
thank
you
you
hear that
again.
okay?
That was beautiful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And thank you again for reading. Great. Our next poet is Eric Craig Sapp, aka Disclaimer. Eric Craig Sapp is an anarcho-communist lawyer, an occasional versifier, and a researcher into the history of metaphysics. Among other things, he is presently writing a play about the origins of Athenian democracy and needs financial backing, invitation. Otherwise, the Deus ex machina might break down. So, a few words about Eric. Eric came when we were still at the library and has been kind of a quiet participant all along. In fact, it wasn't until this past week that I actually knew Eric had a last name. And always he brings very profound words and also a community spirit, jumping in to share the names of poems in the chat to make sure everybody has the information, and always something profound, sometimes as a haiku, sometimes as a longer poem. And the thing I remember most about Eric is that even before I would get my email out about the poetry night, he would be the first one and would say, "Are you having a reading? I'd like to read." There's nothing more powerful than that, than someone saying, "I will be there and I want to participate." And not only that, when you did, you always bring such profound, thought-provoking work. And it's been a pleasure to have you here. So I will read a poem from Eric, and then he will read two of his. This is called Sonnet for J.M. on the Verge of Spring. The sunlight that washes the world with spring, revealing the nakedness of flowers and the green explosions of clover, the blossom trees and all manner of things opening their eyes like newborn infants to the blue sky's slowly floating flosses, winged and crawling creatures, fresh mosses sprouting in viney and entwining plants, has not the pure radiance of your face, nor has the rich earth the fecundity of your eyes, nor their hidden gravity, which draws my soul to you from farthest space. To you, across damp meadows, runs my soul toward a delightful, invisible goal. And now we will hear from Eric Craig Sapp, aka Disclaimer.
Thank you very much, Jackie. If anyone can't hear me well, just gesticulate wildly and I'll try to adjust my technical situation. Thanks, Jackie, for organizing this and all the past events. It's truly been an honor to participate and a true joy. And if anyone hasn't checked out her new book by the title of Seven Skirts, definitely find it through an independent bookseller or a pirated copy online or something like that. And thanks everyone for showing up. So I'm gonna read two translations that I did. Both of them are from say librettos from Monteverdian pieces of music. The first one is from the early 17th century. I mean, the music is from the early 17th century, and the words are from Battista Guarini. Pardon, sorry. That's not the one I'm going to do. The words are from Carlos Milanuzzi. Pardon, in the original. So sweet is the torment which within my breast stays, that I may live content through beauty's crudities. In the beautiful skies, hot, ferocious expanse, in piety's absence, shall such promontory over prideful waves my fidelity e'er be? Speculum's fallacy, a revolving footpath, neither delight nor peace descending upon me. Though, adored, pitiless, you deny me relief of bountiful mercy, desperation traduced, I will live in faith, cross pain's infinity. Through fire and through ice do I have no repose. Within heaven's portal will I have then repose. If e'er a rigid bolt's mortally wounding blow renders my heart impaled, bending my destiny with death's own javelin, shall the core thus be cured. If this amorous flame was visible to such a rigid heart that had long looted mine, if the same crude beauty that inundated my soul denies all pity, 'twould someday be fitting penitence languishing were you to long for me. And the second piece is also a translation from the original, is a sonnet by Petrarch from the 14th century. I've taken some liberties in the translation to make it, well, what it is. Now that the sky and earth and the wind whist, every bird is held in by sleep and each beast. Night drives the starred chariot in a gyre. Into your bed is thrown a waveless sea. Vigilant, I think, I burn, I cry. You who oft undoes me with pain, sweet, anxious, stasis my state, sorrow's crowd and hate. Only thinking of you brings somewhat peace. Behold exactly this clear, living source whence comes bitter sweetness on which I graze. One hand alone that punctures me and cures. The martyr doesn't join the river's shores. I die 1,000 rebirths on most days. So far from salvation is my course. Thank you.
Amazing.
Woo-hoo!
So you see what I mean, don't you? About Eric. Disclaimer. Thank you so much for bringing so many beautiful words and layered meaning to us every time. Our next poet is Jim Herritatos. Jim was born in Rome, New York. He earned a bachelor's in English and classical language from Valparaiso University, and a master in social work with an emphasis on social gerontology from St. Louis University. Jim was a full-time faculty member at McPherson College in Kansas, as well as an instructor at Community College in Kansas until he retired in 2016. For the past 40 years, Jim has provided social services and educational support to community service agencies, social task forces, as well as educational leadership to universities and community colleges. Jim has been a part of Belmont Poetry Night since before I was a part of Belmont Poetry Night, back when Tanu Wakefield was our Poet Laureate. And during the summers when I was on vacation, Jim would step up to host the group during the summers and making sure that things would continue on. He always volunteered to read, and I think the transition online has been a little bit difficult for Jim. I look forward to be able to meet back in person again and hear your poems, and they're often beautiful perspectives on natural beauty. And so I will read a poem from James Haritatos. This one is called Fire of the Skies. Last night I saw the fire of the skies, orb splendid, yellow glinting, a nocturne brilliance. and my heart throbbed to know in syncopated red. I sang off rhythms to the fire, and it danced to the bleeding beat, which I knew, and I danced with the universe, which I did not know. Last night, I saw the fire of the skies, and it was heartful, and I knew the heat of life. Thank you, Jim, for being here, and I will invite you to read your 2 poems. Unmute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
The floor is yours. The mic is yours.
Okay. Okay, this poem is called My Children Grow. Justice, faith, spirit, inner growths of outer edges from forces I have directed or created by suggestion or command of childhood promptings and attention. They are not children anymore. They have felt the faithful waters of tears and smiles, of laughter and solemn sulk, of sad songs and raucous raging tunes. They turn from self to service, rewriting stories of their youth into novels of wisdom action. They are blooms of poise and purpose, blossoming from early seeds of work and faith and love, a repeat with distinction of familiar places and family spaces. They have crowned their petals indeed in direction. My seeds have stretched to stalks of burly blooms, a sight of wonder to behold. My second one is called The Hills Are Far Beyond My Eyes. The hills are far beyond my eyes to see the bumps and knots and curled maneuvers that limbs and leaves produce in upward flow to rocky peaks. I watch the gold that grows in mountaintops beyond my grasp and turns the forest dark into the soaring, glowing pinnacles that pierce my eyes and cause my soul to cry.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for being here tonight and since day one. It's been a pleasure to be part of this community with you.
We're going to miss you.
Oh, I'll be around. Thank you. Our next poet is Lois Fried. Lois Fried is a member of the California State Poetry Society and a favorite at community open mics. She's read her poems on a podcast and before an audience of over 1,200 people, as well as publishing on a Yammer post. Lois has spent over 30 years in human capital management and started her company, LKF Consulting LLC, to support small businesses in the community. She earned her bachelor's degree in business from Excelsior College in Albany, New York. Lois appeared at Belmont Poetry Night. I believe it was guided by a meetup that she, on a whim, decided to follow through on. And ever since meeting her that night, I doubt Lois has missed more than one, maybe two poetry nights. Her presence, her grace, her smile, her encouragement, and most importantly, her unique perspective and her poems, always with fine details that help paint a really vivid picture has been a gift to our community. Lois, thank you so much for being here with your poems and also for just encouraging all of us along the way. For Lois, I will be reading Spring Water from a Speckled Dipper. A drive back from Big Mama's house meant a Sunday afternoon detour to the forever natural spring off Highway 105. To have a drink from the speckled dipper that hung on a branch of an old live oak tree. It was as if the spring knew we would be stopping by. The water would be clearer, sweeter, and colder than the Sunday before, making this lively musical sound as it hit the creek's bottom. Dad was never in a hurry and could hardly contain his excitement as he drove closer to making the right turn onto the country road. He tended the surrounding area of the spring by pulling weeds and giving us kids a brief horticulture lesson about the watercress, cattails, and ferns growing nearby. It may have been the detour off Highway 105 or the way we passed the speckled dipper from one to the other. Maybe it was just the sameness of the ritual that only we knew about. I don't know, but it kept our family whole. Thank you, Lois. The mic is yours.
Thank you, Jacki. And I will miss seeing your beautiful face every third Tuesday, leading us through this beautiful hour plus that we spend together. But I know we'll see each other and we'll be together and in the audience and still sharing all of our beautiful words together. And I'm very happy to be here tonight. I will share two poems, one a little bit longer than the other. The first one is Treasures. The estate sale was like none ever attended. It was designed to spark your curiosity about the owners of the house and the items they treasured. Enter the parlor to find a clawfoot bathtub turned upside down, being used as a coffee table. The fireplace mantle held photographs of athletes, swimmers, relay runners, baseball and basketball players, with no regard to age, race, or gender. Kitchen utensils hung from the ceiling, blowing softly in the wind from the opened back door. Jewelry covered every inch of the dressers, nightstands, and chest of drawers. One could not tell which pieces were real and which were fake, nor did the fanatics care. All three bathrooms smelled of jasmine, lavender, lemon, and peppermint, fused together to create a scent all its own. The back porch held vintage Coke bottles, milk, whiskey, and medicine bottles, too numerous to count. I did not want to buy quickly or leave early. I wanted to stay the night, to live as I imagined the owners had lived for just one night. Washing up using the enamel chipped basin and sandalwood soap on the back porch. Cooking dinner in the kitchen with the back door open. Hearing the music of the kitchen utensils softly tapping each other on the ceiling. Clearing the dining room table of the many tea sets, making space for 2 place settings. Opening a bottle of vintage red wine from the cellar that reeked of leaking bottles, mildew, and darkness. Settling in for the night with a cup of peppermint tea. And the next piece is about time. I wrote this several years ago, and I just call it Time. The winter months brought ice and snow and the smell of pine in the air. Before I could exhale, cherry blossoms were falling from the branches. A drive down the country highway, seeing bales of hay covering the open land. Enjoying a picnic of aged Merlot, Gouda cheese, fresh picked strawberries, and sourdough. I took my neighbor up on the offer for a load of free firewood. I wanted to pay him, but he wouldn't have it, even though it was his livelihood. Time, where did it go? This priceless moment to be used and valued. Time, enjoy it, respect it, protect it. Thank you.
Thank you again, Lois. And as always, the balm of the words that we needed to hear. Thank you. Our next poet is Mirna Hirschl. Mirna is a native of Croatia, the former Yugoslavia, and she grew up through World War II and the communists that followed there. Coming to poetry late in life, she had a long career in computer science, which I was delighted to find out after several years of knowing Mirna. Mirna draws on the specificity of her life to touch others with what is human and familiar. And she's beloved in many local poetry nights, open mics, and has poems published in Warm Hot Bread and a local anthology. Mirna's poetry, actually, not just Mirna's poetry, Mirna herself comes with a feistiness and a certainty that is a delight to witness, and her poems are often surprising and with a reflection of someone who has seen a lot in the world and has some insights to share. And that's why I chose, just so you know, I asked each of the poets tonight to send me 3 poems, and I chose the one from those 3 that I would read. And of the 3 that Lois sent me, this one was the one that just delighted me to picture this Mirna, or the speaker in the poem. And so it's called The White Knee Socks. I traveled many places, blending differences of garments and languages until I came home. I schooled my thoughts. The bits and the bytes cycled in my brain, congesting it with hexadecimal games that write the codes, that drive the machines into a loopy technological frenzy. I drove the cars in more or less prescribed speeds, and myself within my limits, on some very crowded and some lonely roads. I have a family, a husband, children, grandchildren. I try to think on their level. They meet me on mine. as befits the pawns in a venerable ancient game. I have lived my life, although it seems at times more likely that the life has lived through me. But when I look inside, a little girl in white knee socks looks back at me. Can't you just see that? Mirna, welcome.
Thank you. I'm just trying to get the stuff on. Okay. Thank you for the kind words. And above all, thank you for all the nourishing work, acceptance, and all the riches that you have brought to our Belmont Poetry Night. I can hardly even imagine it now without you. So all I can say is that I hope you are going to be coming back and coming back. Promise. Okay. Yeah, I'll read you some. First of all, can you hear me well? Okay. Walking in Belmont, cornered by a string of modest ranches in the patches of sage and rosemary, yucca, and purple penstemon, an English Tudor house oddly impresses indeed, staged in the garden in which rain fairies live in sprinklers, maintaining illusion of lushness in this arid land. The tradition intertwines with ivy climbing up the decorative beams, while manicured lawn speaks fondly of flowered hats, such as English queens wear at ceremonies, and that Southern beauties wore to debutante balls. I say to myself, there goes the past. A couple saunters by. She's surrounded by a crimson sari. What could her husband do but love her, so enveloped in billowing grace? Just 1 second, I can't open this whole thing for some reason. Oh my goodness. Okay, just 1 second, bear with me. I don't know exactly what happened. Okay, sorry, there was a little glitch. So a couple saunters by. She's surrounded by a crimson sari. What could her husband do but love her, so enveloped in billowing grace? And he, in his longing, colored red and orange, listening to whisper of tamarind tree. I keep walking. A young boy's round face peers out of a slow-moving car and smiles at me with all of his 7 or 8 years of beaming friendliness. In the Carmont Plaza, a swarm of high school students of all colors, fashions, and voices perches on the stools of outdoor cafes, chattering like birds on telephone wires, eating their integrated lunch. They don't know yet what they're about. Their eyes shine with adolescent eagerness of life that hasn't written much into their faces yet. And I say to myself, here comes the future. Okay, let's see. Let's hope that this one will go. This one reflects my love of surrealist and other arts. So, stay unresolved and I will love you. De Chirico, Ernst, Dali, and Magritte, for not spelling things out, allowing me to fantasize, to brood, what does it all mean? And let my diverse feelings whirl unimpeded about your whimsical, uncharted wheels. Today, I react to you thus and so. Another time, not at all, but always the freedom from having to understand and from boredom. My dear Magritte, I choose you today. I put on your black bowler hat and eat of your green apple, which invades everything, a fugue from obligation, an escape into imagination, a thrill of the unresolved. Tomorrow, I may let the Chirico birds fly and awaken the antique marble bodies strewn around like so many dead stones, which they are not really, but are alive with possibilities in these licentious landscapes that confuse the physical and the imaginary without censure, which is the delight of them. And if I ascend with you, my Dali, take me to the new time zones of watches which melt and drip, and I will send the rays of sun to reflect on them and change their silhouette. I will stop a brook from flowing, just like you. I will make the impossible real, as long as you allow me to inhabit your canvases. But with you, Ernst, and your birds of flaming colors which speak the unspeakable of raw feelings, I'm shy. I need their boldness. I welcome them. Please do come in, meet your pupil. I want to be a field without a fence. Teach me, but beware. Do not tell me everything. Let me keep my inquisitive wings, and I will love you.
Mirna, yes, so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful to hear you read it after seeing it and hearing it too in the past. And thanks again for always being here. Our next poet is Monica Corda. Monica is a poet from India. She's currently living here in Belmont. Along with being a mainstay at several Bay Area open mic readings, she regularly co-hosts her own virtual poetry open mic, co-hosts. Her poetry has appeared in anthologies and online in the New Verse News, San Francisco Public Library's Poem of the Day, and on YouTube in the form of readings held by local poets laureate, county libraries, and poetry groups. She loves to see the world by going on slow, long walks, hiking up the hills and from inside a helmet while riding 2-up with her husband on their beloved 2 wheels. Monica has been alongside me on this journey as growing poets. I think we both have been evolving, and I've noticed our work along the way has evolved together. We began meeting together actually in my home when I started hosting writers groups, and I invited a few people over to my home where we would workshop some poems. And Monica has always come with a generous spirit, a willingness to learn, and as you've probably noticed in the chat, just a warm, loving heart, always supporting the members of this community. I think it's easy for a poet to be a poet. It's not always easy for a poet to be able to read their work in a compelling way, as well as to be an engaging member of the community. So Monica has all of these gifts. She brings them together and is just also a warm friend. The poem I'm going to read from Monica she sent me 3, and I said, Monica, I know you know which one I'm going to choose because she knows me, I think. And this is just an amazing theme. So this is the one I chose to read from her. It's called Dare. Himalayan goddess, eight-armed Shakti. I've heard stories of your power, penance, and courage, of things you have sacrificed, slayed, and survived, how you manifest into a Devi. Become Uma, Parvati, Durga, Kali, provider, preserver, wife goddess, warrior, destroyer, mother goddess, superhuman, divine, great goddess. For once, let go of the brilliance weighing you down. Reveal your unradiating self, whoever you are. No matter what you're called, wrap your arms around these other versions of you. Free-willed woman, survivor woman, divorced, childless, rebel woman, lighting her own cigarettes woman, making her own mistakes woman, trapped in a man's body woman, unwomanly woman, flawed woman. Persist under these glorious pieces you hide. Announce your place in the pantheon of beings. Go ahead, woman. Ungoddess yourself. Dare. Ah. Does that get you like it gets me? Beautiful, beautiful, Monica. Thank you for everything. And the mic is yours.
Thank you so much, Jackie. You read that beautifully, so gracefully. Thank you so much. I hope all of you can hear me well. And yeah, before I begin the next two poems that I'd be reading, I'd just like to take an extra minute to share something about Jackie. To have my poem featured and read by the Poet Laureate of Belmont is an honor, and I'm fortunate to have this honor twice. I'm deeply grateful to you for tonight and for every third Tuesday of the month that you've been graciously hosting this poetry night, beginning in 2018 by the fireplace in Belmont Library, the one you see behind me as my virtual background, and by the candlelight in your home since the pandemic. Thank you for honoring the community through your work and for creating little nooks and corners all around Belmont in which poetry is truly thriving. As your tenure ends, I'm left with one question which many have expressed. If not her, then who? I think that sums up my deep admiration for the poet in you and for the inspiration you've always been, Jackie. I offer you all my love and best wishes as you move forward. But I'm sure you're right here and we'll always have you around us. Please keep making poetry, and I've been reading your book, which is a delight and nothing less than a wonder. So thank you for that. And I'm so delighted to share the mic tonight with all of you amazing poets of Belmont. Thanks everyone for being here. I won't take any more time. I'll go ahead with the next poem, which is called Bird Song. Look, the house finch, a rosy red, the young olive-backed lesser goldfinch, the pygmy nuthatch with slate gray wings, the chestnut-backed chickadee, the long-tailed blue jay, the barrel-chested, red-breasted nuthatch, the beady-eyed oak titmouse, the dark brown Oregon junco. How each bird drifts down like a slow falling leaf, taking turns to visit, to feed on the sunflower seeds I have put out for them on my ledge. And I'd watch them all day long, if only the sun tracking the pines above weren't also slowly reaching for my eyes. I look away for a minute, and in that temporary blur, the season shifts and folds. The earth turns into a solid beige. The lake doubles everything it sees, and I am left with an empty sky. But the birds have a way of coming back, and they do. Resolute singers after my own heart. I can see them quietly nesting, wintering, and passing through the remote regions inside me, offering weightless songs with an invitation, open all year round. Thank you. My next poem is one of the favorite things that I love to do on California back roads, and that's motorcycling with my husband. This poem is called Motorcycle Pantoum. It is only a machine, steel skin, rubber and plastic, pistons and valves and the crankshaft spinning free, keeping up with the beats, the rhythm on the road. And when I say heart, you know there is something more than pistons and valves and the crankshaft spinning free, until finally the motor comes to life. And when I say heart, you know there is something more, pushing against the wind, burning cheap gas and monotony, until finally the motor comes to life. When I say love, you know it will carry us through, pushing against the wind, burning cheap gas and monotony, the smell of a dead skunk and breath fogging up our faces. When I say love, you know it will carry us through the desert, wind howling like a mad woman, the smell of a dead skunk and breath fogging up our faces. Nothing romantic about being on a motorcycle with the desert wind howling like a mad woman, and still we ride for the pleasure of going. Nothing romantic about being on a motorcycle, but when I say life, you know what it is made of. And we ride for the pleasure of going, keeping up with the beats, the rhythm on the road. When I say life, you know what it is, made of steel skin, rubber, and plastic. Is it only a machine? Thank you so much. Thanks for listening, everyone who have joined in. Thanks again, Jacki.
What a glorious expression of that form. Thank you. Thank you for your words tonight, too. Our final poet in this portion of the evening is Philip Brent Harris. His home and studio are in Pacifica, California, though he hails from Indiana. He arrived in California via hitchhike, and he met the woman who became his wife, and they live happily here in Pacifica, have lived happily here in Pacifica ever since. Phil has a degree in film, and he's also an exhibiting oil painter, neither of which I've known about him, and I suspect others who have known Phil here each month didn't know that much about him too. So I encourage you to check out his work on his website, philipbrentharris.com, and see the other expressions of Phil's work. Phil has been here religiously and always sharing his encouragement and always has plenty to say, which we love about him. And I'm so glad that you're here, Phil. Thank you again for your encouragement and for your presence all along the way, as well as all of the beautiful poems that you share. The poem I want to read of Phil's is called, What Do I Know? Do you believe in magic, elves, fairy folk, and such? Or do you scoff and scorn, think it's all too much? So smart, you know that you can rule out anything. Disbelieve the intent of galaxies, say stars don't sing. I hope I'm not so pompous, I'll discount possibility. Our most tragic tale unto our most glorious ecstasy. Say you have proof inviolate of which you are aware. Please, let us know what it is, don't hesitate to share. Despite touting openness, I offered my own candidates. Our consistent cosmos, life and death are ever mates. Our differences oppress us, far outweighed by sames. All start, end equally, despite how we slant the games. You think I've reneged on my assertion, it's not true. Professing surety, I know what I see might be askew. I would, like most, persuade you to my way of seeing, but would never attack or chastise your way of being. My time here so brief, I've hardly started flowing. Sometimes I wonder if I'm coming or if I'm going. I have limited control of when life is fast or slowing. The end of each day, wonder what it is I'm knowing. So foolish. I imagine speaking all the world's tongues would seem little more than the buzzing of electrons, a speck in comparison. We make Whoville enormous. What's it matter? We all sing parts in the same chorus. Not even sure if this is all or nothing but our dreams. Can't matter what we do if nothing's what it seems. Wonder if we'll awaken on the bottom or on the top. Should we continue as we are now, or is it time to stop? And if it's some fabulous fantasist's fevered vision, anything may then be true. Require a total revision? Why then choose for most to travel the darkest path? 1 = 1 when any school child works math. Is a mahogany casket required, plush and satin lined, to decay beneath sun, moon, stars is much maligned? Treating each and all as if they're just the same as me, more intelligent, compassionate, the only way I'll be. Perhaps a fool, perhaps not. Doubtless no one cares. No matter if I ignore it all or sell you my paltry wares. Impact may not be major, might grow my bottom line. Then I might become average. To me, that's truly fine. Thanks for that lovely poem, Phil, and the mic is yours.
Okay, well, first up, I want to be like everybody else, and I want to thank you so much for what you have done in the time that I've been associated with this, and just your spirit. I feel very honored to be included because to me, with some of these people, I'm sort of a Johnny-come-lately. I've only been around for, I don't know, maybe a year and a half or so. I don't really remember exactly when I came. But you have been wonderfully encouraging, and I felt really honored by the invitation. And I hope and know we will still see you showing up at groups. If you want me to twist Chris Liu's arm to like fill in for now, and till we figure out who's permanent, I can do that. We meet in another setting as well. So in any event, for whatever, my mouse just decided to die, and I tried changing batteries and it didn't work. So I'm using the pad, and I'm not very good at it. But the first poem I'm going to read is Ask Only One Question. Give me the cheerfulness and fearlessness of our youth, back when we knew they were our lives, embodied our truth. Towels we used to make superhero capes with paper masks, innocence our strength to conquer all our Sisyphean tasks. Heroes all, though one day as Indians, the next day cowboys. Imagination's fires lit, more magical than any children's toys. Climbed to the top of every mountain, called king of the hill, cast down defeated, but a mother's love made it all less than nil. Held us, helped us, sent us back to conquer worlds unknown, growing in sunlight, fresh air, no video games and no phones. Adventure daily plotted with friends and erstwhile cohorts, comrades, brother, haughty sisters teased with sneers and snorts, till a day when feminine looks, charms capture our attention, friends from youth lost, ignored, without conscious intention. Seen but changed, all our gazes now looking up and outward, to heed life's imperative, abandon play upon the greensward. No swimming holes, fishing holes, secret forts. Secret forts and caves where we plotted our greatest conquest in sheltered enclaves. Memories of triumph, failure, seen through the gauze of time, buried deep in our minds' dungeons, perpetrators of a crime. Can we, might we, ever reclaim the innocence of childhood? Friends, enemies, enemies, friends, something all understood. May we somehow shed the shackles of stress and simply play, contest if we must, with imagination, invention, an hour a day. If we abandon our toys and play at war, we'd improve our lot. Yet toy guns, pointed fingers hold no threat of the burial plot. Cat bangs, children piping cries, got you, followed by did not. We don't play. We don to play, doff at the end of day, the reason why we fought. What a world where we train children as merchants of death. Death a daily diet we fill them with, hate until our final breaths. Fools we are, fools we remain, believing the die has been cast. Pain harshened years, living in the present, dying for the past. When men and women recall how to play like girls and boys, so innocent imagination will with every dawn possibility enjoys, and never ever anything so important that we must always kill or die. Must future beings view our past, ask only one question, why?
Amen, brother.
Thank you. Okay, the second one I'm going to read is Other Plans, and in some strange way, I don't know, I think this is a corollary to the first poem I ever read at the Belmont group, which is something called I Wonder, which is about love and how we understand what it is and how we share it with each other. So this is called Other Plans. If I knew I was dying, what would I say about me to you, who knew me best, better perhaps than I know myself? Still, I have secrets. We all have secrets. What will I say about my life? Plans, hopes, dreams, some realized in unexpected ways. Should I tell what really happened? All of it? Do I even know all of it? Should I tell made up tales, stories I create, ribbons, threads of what happened, actual events? Oh, or my personal reality woven with strands drawn from me, changing colors where they overlap. Sorry. This is the mouse killing me. Sorry. Becoming the image I display, think I must be. New highlights, shined up, any best and brightest casting, darker shadows, deep caves to hide myself, hoard my treasures, precious truth which I might erase, afraid to face, embarrassed by its ugly face. Could I face my inner demons, see my monsters as myself, reality and being joined without contrivance, obfuscation, neither the garish painted harlot nor the gilded lily, simply what is honest and plain unvarnished truth, the highest plane of beauty, who I am as life intended me to be.
Thank you, Phil. And I'd like to invite all of you to go ahead and turn on your mic and give everyone, all of the poets, a round of applause, because it's awfully silent. And I just want everyone to hear how grateful we are to
Clap for everybody else.
hear. Thank you.
I wanted to thank you for how well you read the first poem that you read. I've never heard anybody else read my work, and so it was actually very exciting to hear that.
You're welcome. We will go to the next part of our evening, which is not just a tribute to the poets who have shown up month after month for Belmont Poetry Night, but this is my opportunity also to give tribute to the poets who have inspired me, mentored me, and greatly improved my writing and my role as poet laureate. And so this is my show of gratitude to what we have here tonight that you may not realize, which is the proverbial embarrassment of riches of 4 poets laureate that are here tonight. So I am going to say a little something about each of them and then read one of their poems. The first I would like to show my gratitude for is poetess Kalamu Shashe, who is the East Palo Alto Poet Laureate. So many of you here tonight may be, like I was, a private poet and doing a lot of writing on my own. And Kalamu Shashe, who we lovingly call Shashe, hosts for free and has been doing this for many years, workshops at the East Palo Alto Library. And I took my daughter Celeste there because she's a poet and I wanted her to be exposed to Shashe, who gave her some encouragement about her writing. And then I just casually mentioned, I do some writing, but I don't. And I would never forget Shashe's response to me, which was, because I was like, I'm not that great, or, how women always do, right? We downplay our work, right? And Shashe's response was, oh, no. We have no time for that. No, we don't. No. You got to get your work out there. We don't have time for anybody to be holding back. And that just gave me this most amazing kick in the pants to actually just take it to heart that we don't have time to waste. We're here on earth for a very short time with these gifts that we must get out in the world. So that is the gift that Shashe gave to me, along with her most loving spirit. She is a tireless advocate for poetry and the arts in the community and on Facebook, and I am so grateful for her presence in my life. I'd like to read this poem called Food for Thought, and it's by poetess Kalamu Shashe. We come upon the morning of each day with expectations on how we'll live our lives on any given day to help those around us to live. We go about our day doing lots of things that support us in fulfilling our destiny and completing what the day brings for us to do in doing our share for humanity. The time is here now before us to make a positive difference in doing our share. Let's do the best that we can on purpose in letting others know the extent of our care. It's now on us to give more thought to food. Good nutrition has many healthy benefits. We all gain from us all being in a happy, better mood. Good nutrition nourishes our minds, bodies, and spirits. Somewhere, someplace, there are millions of people who are in need of our kindness and generosity. Let's continue planting seeds of hope for people so that we can all enjoy living in a healthy community. Thank you, Shashe, for everything you've done for me. And if I don't know if you can say no, but there's a poem that you read when I hosted you in my home. And actually, you know, many poets, I'm totally guilty of this, is that we just kind of read what's on the page. And Shashe is a performance poet. She actually engages with people, and I had never really seen that done up close. So I hosted a poetry event in my home, and the most amazing thing happened when Shashe asked this couple, a Belmont couple, and they had been married, I think it was for 40 years or something like that. And she asked them to stand up and hold each other's hands and to gaze into each other's eyes while she performed this poem for them and for all of us. And so, Shashe, do you remember that poem, I Believe in Love?
Yes, I do.
My friend, will you read that for us tonight?
Oh, Jacki. Thank you so much for letting me know that you wanted me to be on this call. And of course, you know I had to do this. I congratulate you so much for all of the great progress and success that you had and experienced in your role as the Belmont Poet Laureate. And it's been an honor for me to be with you on many platforms over the years in helping to bring the arts and the literary arts into the lives of many people. And yeah, that was a very magical day. In my work, this happens to me. You know, I'm a reader, so things happen to me when I'm in front of an audience of people. And I just love, and I especially love to see couples, because we're living in a society that talks one way, but they certainly don't support it in terms of couples, families, parents and their children. And COVID has definitely shown how this is what happens when you don't pay attention to things like this, you know. But luckily, we're in a universe that will make people wake up and see the better way to be. And that's what keeps us being hopeful about a lot of things. So that poem that you're talking about has happened to be what I call a signature poem. I always, when I'm doing live performances, is one of the poems that I always have to end on, that people seem to really like and request. And it's I Believe in Love. I believe in love. How I believe in love. Because a man and a woman are still the core. And we've got to start loving each other more. We've got to stop waging this war and start being what we should be for. Because there are children that we must make, and there are sadnesses and joys that we must take. So if we don't hurry up and mend this break, don't you know it'll be a grave mistake. I believe in love. How I believe in love. Our reasons for being are also clear. We've got to start staying together from year to year. And we've got to start being the very best that we can for that very special woman or man. Because there are children that we must make, and there are sadnesses and joys that we must take. So if we don't hurry up and mend this break, don't you know it'll be a grave mistake. I believe in love. How I believe in love. I believe in love. How I believe in love. I believe in love. How I believe in love. I said that I believe in love. How I believe in love. Thank you so much, Jacki. Thank you so much for all that you've been doing. And I know you're going to be out there. You're going to be doing great work. And I'm going to be out there looking and being by your side to help you get through everything you got to go through. And I want you to know that when I look at your children, I look at people who are very proud of you, very proud of you. You're setting a good example for how they're going to be in their future. And I have no doubt they're all going to make their mark. You've been a magnificent mother as well as a poet. And we're showing the world what can happen with poetry. And I thank you so much for that.
Thank you, my dear friend. Thank you. And who among us cannot believe in love after hearing that? So powerful, so wonderful. And you know what? We all need a little more poetess Kalamu Shashe in our lives. That's all.
Amen.
About
Amen.
that.
I have words for you.
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you.
I love you, Kalamu.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, indeed.
The next poet I'd like to thank, she's not able to be here tonight. Carolyn Goodwin is the San Mateo County Poet Laureate Emerita, and she was the first Poet Laureate for San Mateo County. Tonight, I know, is the anniversary of her marriage, and her husband was killed a few years back. Caroline was the one who wrote the letter of recommendation for me to when I applied for this role for Poet Laureate. She's been a mentor and someone who has helped edit my work along the way. She has a way of drawing nature and into her work as a way to express pain and loss, which has had a huge impact on me and my work. And I chose this poem from her book, The Paper Tree, and it is called For Rebecca. I chose it because it reminds me of all of us writing alongside, writing on our own, writing in privacy, and also being together in community in our solitary writing practice. It's called For Rebecca. Friend, there is nothing like this bay, quiet fern, cool spot on the back of the hand. Tonight, the water's surface reflects the smoky rose, and the day passes, and what can I show for it? O cone-bearing incense cedar, western yew and birch, and a bright gold band on clamshell and thistle, this flycatcher, that turkey vulture circling the valley, where we ascend the old stairs, the lichen at work, at its trumpets and cups and lobes, and we set out to explore our own thoughts, two friends at their desks, 2 juncos in the alders, a few lines of a poem, and what reveals itself, rose-shaped so slowly in the mind, in the daylight bending away. Don't you just feel the community in that work? So Caroline, thank you so much for the role you've played in moving my work along and supporting me. The next poet I'd like to thank is San Francisco Poet Laureate Emerita now, Kim Shuck. Kim was one of the first poets that I did at Belmont Poetry Night, probably like the second month that I started hosting. And I had known about her work. She's part Cherokee. She writes a lot about murdered and missing Indigenous women. And she has no fear in speaking what's true. And when I called her up and I asked her to come read in Belmont, she said, Jacki, I don't know if Belmont is ready for my kind of work. Which, if you know Belmont, is kind of true. But I said, you know what? That's exactly what I want to bring to Belmont. And so she came and read some very powerful words. And that was the beginning of a friendship. And she has also supported me along the way, as well as inspired me to speak the truth, to write through poetry what is painful and what is true and what may be offensive to others. And so the poem I chose to read is called Culturally Sensitive Education. It's from her book, Clouds Running In. I might take your history book later this fall to a stone mortar near the creek, pound it with acorns from a tan oak to meal, run it with cold water from that creek, leach tannins, leach ink, until the meal won't burn in my mouth, until it tastes clean. I could stone boil the result damp from good water, washed free of toxins. Dust it with salmon flour. It could become something useful, could be coaxed into soup, a thing I am finally willing to feed my children. Kim, I know you're not here tonight, but I want you to know how much your work and support has meant to me and the members of the San Francisco Bay Area community. The next poem I would like to give my gratitude to is Dear Lisa Rosenberg, who is the San Mateo County Poet Laureate who followed Caroline Goodwin. Now, Lisa and I actually were friends for many years because our daughters, we homeschooled our daughters who are the same age, and we met when they were like 6 and they're seniors and junior and senior in high school right now. So it's been a long time. And I don't think either of us knew that the other was writing poetry. And so it was this happy coincidence that our paths intersected in this way, along with the other ways that are woven together in our lives. And of course, Lisa has been a model for me for how to be a homeschooling mom and still be able to gather your work together and get it out in the world. And I admire her precision, the precision in her work. And she also sat around that table with me with Monica. And gosh, I've learned so much from her about how to edit poetry and seeing the example in her work. The poem I want to read from Lisa Rosenberg is called Slide Rule. And do you know how you have poems where there's just a line or phrase that is just going to stay with you for your whole life? This poem has the end line in there that is that for me. That's one of those lines where you just think, it just opens up a door for you that you didn't even know was there. And for a little bit of context, slide rule, my dad had one. It was the old way of doing calculations, yeah, before we had complex computers. The other thing I love about Lisa, she has all her work in her head. You will never take it away from her. She doesn't need to carry her books with her. And this is something I can only strive to emulate. And so this is called Slide Rule. Tool of elegance, of speed against a different meter of a different day. A day you walked out to suburbs and cars and the faithful hold of motor oil on hot asphalt and orange blossoms. A sky ripe for the faint drone of airplanes, their hulls designed with aligned precision and the fortitude of hand calculations, of penciled graphs, blueprints, and circle templates on an angled drafting board. Mechanical tools where mechanical telephone bells call through the plumes above crowded ashtrays and coffee rings on flecked formica. The desks in rows, the men in ties and shirt sleeves. I am almost there in my pixie cut and white shoes on family day. Agape at the dark control room, unaware of the beauty of logarithms, the fluid promises of computing, that this laminate rule will soon outlast its heyday, a burnished leather case, and all of us. There is war on the news. We are scaling the moon, and everyone I love is living, or yet to be born. Lisa, thank you so much for your friendship and your support. I would love it if you shared a poem with us.
Jacki, I'm not known for crying at readings so much, but it's such a gift to hear one's work read to us. I have not heard anyone read that piece before. And not only is it a favorite piece, but today is the anniversary of my father's death. And I hadn't even thought about that until today. And knowing you would read that poem, it's kind of, there's so much going on right now. It was like slow motion that it all dawned on me. So thank you so much. I do want to pause before reading and just take a moment to kind of bask in the beautiful energy of everything you've created these 3 years, and the time that you built toward it, and the time and the momentum they will carry through from it. Emerita is a very long time. And now that you're a community poet, you're kind of always a community poet. And we really do learn from and with each other, both the practice of our art and the stewarding of our art. And from you, I have learned, it's like how many immeasurable ways to show generosity and to support community. the bringing forth of voice starts with holding space. And you hold space, you offer safety, and that's where possibility starts. And this community is so, we've been saying grateful enough. I think this community is so delighted for that. That brings a playfulness and a joy, as well as all the somber and bright tones of wisdom. So just lots of gratitude and thanks for that. So I said, great, you read slide rule. I'll read something new. And I was going to read a favorite new, another poem about the moon and a sonnet. And yet, as I was listening today, I thought, this evening, I thought, well, maybe I will read something different. It's not new, but it is in the book, A Different Physics also. But it's a poem that I rarely have occasion to read. And it really is about those tangibles that tether us and that carry us between losses and possibilities and beginnings. And it's called Olives. Out among the felled limbs of my in-laws' orchard in the calm of winter, I couldn't know what would happen, if there would ever be another pregnancy. Just that I needed to step through tall grass and feel the arc of my boot fall, the drop of each olive, young or ripe, apple green, old blood, into the bucket. Sun shifted, branch piles burned at the grove's edge, and I gleaned, one by one, perfect fruits. Bucket to sack to flatbed, the muddy road out to others, and commerce with others. Thank you, Jacki. Thank you, fellow poets and my colleagues, and Sashay, mentor to us all.
Thank you. Perfect choice for tonight. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for everything. And the next thanks goes to Eileen Cassinetto, who is our current San Mateo County Poet Laureate. Eileen's work puts every poet laureate's work to shame. This woman has boundless energy for bringing people together, for organizing readings, for organizing poetry events, and for elevating the work of students, young people, poets who are not typically recognized. She's also so important to the work of social activism that poetry can be. And I think most of all, so first of all, one of the first events I think that Eileen did because I was Poet Laureate before she was when she became Poet Laureate, that we did an event together for Valentine's Day. And that will always be really special to me, where we read love poems. And I carry so much love for Eileen. She does so much for everyone selflessly. And I say that with true sincerity, so selfless that she is. And I think I want to show the utmost gratitude for her faith in my work, because it's her amazing press, Paloma Press, that published my book of poetry. And I'm not sure it would have, where it might have found a home, but what I do know is that Paloma Press is the perfect home for my work because of Eileen's generosity, because of how she amplifies the work of lesser known voices or lesser heard voices. So Eileen, thank you so much for everything you've done for San Mateo County and for me personally. And I want to read the poem from your book, The Pink House of Purple Yam Preserves, which is just about the best title anybody could ever come up with. And it's called A Day at the Museum with a Poet for Eileen Tabios. And the reason I chose this one is because it really reflects the camaraderie and the support and the kind of inspiration that can happen when artists come together as friends. A Day at the Museum with a Poet for Eileen Tabios. All days should be like this: blissful, unhurried, and art-filled. With two women and the beach at Trouville, here's a world hemmed in by parasols and flounces, grains of sand and shell on its surface. Was that uncertainty in the summer of 1870? Or impermanence, and the world abstracted and manifold in Brock's Sea and Sky and in both sailboats in the spring of 1909? Such cubic oddities in the little harbor of Normandy. And in The Scallop Shell, Picasso's 1912 oval still life embodying a tabletop or flat canvas, where pipe, seashells, and the world coming apart came together, blazoning our future is in the air. Sunflowers, skyward in yellow, faithful in yellow. Dear heart, Vincent, Vincent, were all your days like this? Blissful, unhurried, joy-filled?
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you so much. Should I read now?
Thank you, Eileen. The mic is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's an honor to be here and celebrate Jacki Rigoni, phenomenal woman and poet laureate whose heart is as strong as it is beautiful. Thank you, Jackie, for all the things that you are to each one of us. And I have to say this, Paloma Press is very, very fortunate that you chose to work with us. I'll be reading one poem, and this one's for you, Jackie. The Cabinet of the World and the Journeys of Women. Caroline of Ansbach's Cabinet of Curiosities is probably the most famous in the world. It held a unicorn horn, naturalia, bezoar stones, mirabilia, an ivory box of gold dust, artificialia, a gallery of portraits, artefacta, and all the books ever written, scientifica. But how do you catalog ideas such as inoculation or miniature shoes belonging to lost children, or newer installations such as A Dress of Sorrows or The Journeys of Women journaled or mapped on cloth? Surely these must be classified apart from items wrested from nature or wrought by man. Surely it warrants its own class, one that speaks of grit and mother wit. Like the secret name of woman, triumpha, which means undaunted, forever strong-hearted. Thank you, everyone. Love you, Jackie.
Thank you, Eileen. Thanks for being here too, and always. And then the last poet in this portion that I would like to thank, of course, has to go to my predecessor, Tanuja Mirota Wakefield. Tanu is, some people say the first poet laureate, but it's actually the second, because we had, back in the 70s, we did have a poet laureate in Belmont. She's the first modern age poet laureate for Belmont, and really set the tone for me and for poets laureate to come. And she's the one who actually created this poetry night. And I'll never forget when I first started showing up. Okay, y'all know me as a crier, right? And I know there's kind of this thing in poetry circles where you're not supposed to cry or show emotion, because you're supposed to let the person, let the audience or the people kind of have their own emotions around it. But it's just not possible for me. I'm sorry. And I can tell you, the first time I started reading my poetry at Tanu's hosted poetry night, I just bawled my eyes out every time. And she made me feel so welcome, and like it was just fine, and actually made me want to keep coming back. And so I think that kind of community that we've created here, where it's all okay, and that we can all come as we are and celebrate each other and bring our work and read it where we are, that precedent was set by Tanu. Now, added to that, the fact that we live near each other, and we've often gone on walks together. We've talked poetry, we've talked children, we've talked terrible former presidents, we've talked politics, we've talked exasperation at the state of racism in our country, and we've talked about love and friendship and parents and so many things. So not only do I thank you, Tanu, for setting the tone and paving the way for the poet laureateship in Belmont, but for your friendship and for your beautiful poetry. The poem I wanted to read is a little bit not on theme. It's from her book, Undersong. I chose it because one of the things I love about Tanu's work is that she embraces her Indian heritage and really pulls that in. And there's a specificity to it. There's an activism, a political activism to it, a reclaiming to it, and there's also a universality to it. And right now, as I go through the experience of a mom who's in late stage Alzheimer's, and I was reading through which of the many, many poems I could possibly choose, I chose this one because it really spoke to me about where I'm at in this particular day of being a human. And it's called Postcard from Marathabod. Hi, Mom. I'm writing you from here, a place you called home. The mosque is still next door. The narrow streets teem with brass makers who shape metal into swans, fish, and more line up at their feet, all hooves and beaks of birds. I spy a younger you, a fistful of rupees in the heat, buying vegetables for the family meal. Your braids swing behind you, back and forth, tight and neat. I can almost touch them. Wait, I call, as you weave through the stalls, searching for the freshest gobi, the greenest peas. Wait, while the bicycle bells peal and haul past us, and the rising prayers never cease. Thank you, Tanu, and welcome.
Thank you, Jacki. I'm also getting emotional. It is, like Lisa said, very gratifying to hear your own poem read aloud. I've never heard it read by anyone else, so that alone is incredibly moving to me. And yeah, so I also want to say that my first memory of you, Jacki, is coming to one of the first years that I was hosting the poetry night, and moving through tears to read one of your poems. And I remember back then, I thought, even back then, I said, this is a person who is moved by poetry. Like, that's what this is for. This is not to show off what we know and name things. I mean, this is for the heart. This is to move us. And you already have that in you. And then you just grew something into just this beautiful tree that we have here with the poetry night and with all the other work you've done for Belmont. I just feel that we've all been lifted by the work you've done. All of these poetry nights, especially the way you seamlessly transitioned into the pandemic and COVID and taking poetry online, I have just been made the better for it. And I feel like we all have, and to hear all of these amazing voices, it's just a testament to that. It's a testament to all of your wonderful, amazing work. I just want to wish you the most heartfelt congratulations for all that you've done, all that you've created, the pockets of poetry we can find all over town, and all of these wonderful people who've come together and will continue to come together and continue to share poetry together, because it is a communal art form. And I think that that's what makes it live its brightest way. So I just want to clap again and congratulate you, Jacki, for everything. Thank you so, so much. I feel gratitude is the right word. I'm filled with gratitude and honor. And I'll share one poem that I wrote recently or over this pandemic, because along with things like poetry night, what has given me comfort in this year and a half of discomfort and uncertainty is walking, like a lot of us here. I love that a lot of us share this engagement and beauty, because we live in a really beautiful place. We are very privileged and blessed for that. So I'll read this poem. It's taken, the title of the poem is taken from a line from a poem by Mark Strand. And that line is, "Why do I love what fades? Why do I love what fades? To name the live oak, the foxtail is easy. But what of the squirrel tail? Just the tail, twitching in the breeze. The rest of the body gone. Is there a name for that? Who consumed the squirrel flesh and carried her to the stars? And who are we in relation to all that? Lonely tail, missing body. The light of this place has been kind to me, offers a trail I never knew existed, a through street, not a dead end. And smell coffee brewing, frying onions, fleeting skunk, and hear bird song, a crow rubbing its shiny beak against a branch, and feel a butterfly brush against my nose and flutter away, and see the sun glinting on broken beer bottles, a scattered mosaic of green and brown glass. Now the dog's fur glows in the light. And my skin does too, this late afternoon, this gloaming before fading, this path blazing dry. I find the view, a city skyline emptied of life. The red-tailed hawk whispers in my ear, the longer I walk, the farther I am from everything. On my way home, I pass an open garage, no human in sight. On a table sits a Smith Corona typewriter. It's plugged in and humming.
Thank you, Tanu. Thank you so much. So normally we have an open mic after this, and we do have 3 people who have emailed me in advance to sign up. So I'm going to keep it to those 3. Normally I keep our poetry nights to an hour and a half because I think there's a certain point you reach where you get saturated, and there's a diminishing returns on your ability to hear poetry at that point. So tonight is a special night, and I really want to thank all of you who have stuck around to share in this celebration. So we have 3 poets. The first I'd like to introduce is Luke Cassipe. Thanks for coming back. It's great to see you. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
I've been all over the place, so I'm here now. So
Great to see you.
I'm going to read hi. I'm going to read a poem. It's in honor of Jack Kerouac and Ken Kesey. I'm reading it in honor of the City Lights bookstore. It's kind of a crazy place I hang out in San Francisco. It's called This Is Who I Am. This is a tribute to all the crazy poets out there. This is who I am. I am a poet, and you know it, because I am fucking crazy, but I am also sane. I am deluded in my brain. My thoughts are profane. This is my song without music. However, the melody is not abusive. You see, I want to speak for you what you cannot say. I want you to hear what you don't hear. I evangelize with my words, both the beauty and the absurd. And now the poetic plan unfolds. I want to save your literary soul. So when my poem tells you that a beautiful day is like taking 1,000 hits of LSD while flying to a paradise of infinite wonder where Jim Morrison is smiling, steering a crystal ship, accompanied by a rainbow of incandescent unicorns, then that's when you need to listen, man. Because when Armageddon appears, I will give you the courage to face the wonders of the apocalypse. I read to you now, not from the book of life, but from the Tibetan book of the dead instead. Hear the beauty and magnificence of the end of the world. It is the plan of destruction unfurled. Charles Bukowski laughs at the filth, degradation, and human misery for all of you drowning in that evil sea. And now, this is the end. This is the end for you and for me. I told you this is the end. This is the motherfucking end, my friend. This is the end. I'm a poet, goddammit. Thank you.
Thank you, Luke, and thank you for bringing the spirit of City Lights here. Good to see you again. Next up, we have Connie Titanborn. Connie, it's great to see you here. I know you mentioned that you're from Belmont, and this is your first time joining us. It's so good that you found us, so welcome, and the mic is yours.
Okay. The poem that I'm going to read is titled The Four-Dimensional Jar. How does such a small jar hold so much? This jar of tomato preserves is filled with my grandmother standing over a huge boiling pot. One spoonful of the not too sweet with a touch of lemon sticky spread smeared onto toast contains an entire backyard garden with more tomatoes than one family can eat. One bite holds the lessons from my health-conscious mother, who was chewing preservative-laden grape jelly and white bread, sent me to school with whole wheat peanut butter sandwiches, dripping with homemade tomato preserves from one of Grandma's mason jars. Those jars preserve more than sugar-saturated tomatoes. Soft, gooey chunks in a thickened syrup contain a resistance to jaded aging, the optimism of childhood in an 8-ounce jar.
Thank you, Connie. Where have you been these last 3 years? We've needed you. Thank you for finding us. I hope you bring more of your poetry.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then our last poet for open mic, I'm delighted to to invite Diane Mumey to read. Diane also hosted me last week or the week before at the Coastside Poetry Night, which I encourage you all to join as well. It's an amazing community of poetry, and Diane is an amazing host. So Diane, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. I see several faces who've featured for us at Coastside Poetry and have really warm memories of that. Some still to come, and some who come regularly for the open mic. And so it's lovely to be here. And this sonnet is one I haven't read aloud anywhere, and it's something that I try to remember. Purling. A lazy morning in the beds, oysters lie awaiting drifting plankton, shells agape. Comes a flounder flicking sand, and mollusk lips close too late, shut around the shards, cannot spit them out. Flotsam, jetsam lie atop the tongues. Years will pass, the rubble will be buried in a limey mantle, nascent pearl. The years, the nacre. Core forgotten, a word, a look, a letter. In darkened rooms, hour tides and currents, bivalves open, bivalves close, and purling simply happens, slow spheres. We, oysters wrapped around, soft around, dark around, and blind to our own pearls. Thank you.
Beautiful, Diane. Thank you. Thank you. And thanks for being here. So that concludes Belmont Poetry Night tonight. Thank you for all of you for sticking around a little bit extra, more than usual. If you'd like to be added to the list, go ahead and email me at Jacki at womanuprising.com. That way we can notify you, and I can give that information to the next poet laureate, and they can invite you to these readings, and you can know when other events are coming up. And thank you all for this evening, for your presence, for your poetry, for your support, and I look forward to joining you in poetry some more. And so I'd like to conclude this evening actually with the words of poetess Kalamu Shashe, which is, I believe in love. Oh yes, I believe in love. Thank you all and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Jacki.
Thank you, Jacki, so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you. Bye.